Alright, what I'm going to do here is give you a little bit of a review of the Dillon XL650. I really like this reloading machine. It's been a fun machine to use. It's been my first reloading purchase. I have a good friend who uses the 550 and he recommended I go with the 650 because the main difference you get with the 650 is you get an auto indexing plate, which means that the shell plate right here with each drop, as it comes down on the main piston, it automatically rotates, whereas a 550 you're doing it by hand. I also have another friend who has the 1050, and his machine is quite a bear when it comes to caliber conversions. And so after a little bit of research, I decided on the 650, and there's not a ton of reviews out there online, so I thought I would give this little bit of a review. What you're looking at here first is the case feeder. This is an additional feature. It's not included in the base model, but I highly recommend this. It really speeds up the reload. What it allows you to do is to put your brass up in the top, cycles through on a case feeder plate, sends it down this main tube. I've got it loaded with 45 ACP right now. With each caliber that you pick up with the Dillon, you're going to get different pieces. This is a tube that is specific to this size of caliber. The rifle ones they look just a little bit different. One nice thing about the Dillon products is when it's changing things out, they're oftentimes color coded. They're very clearly labeled, which is a very positive thing. It helps you stay organized. Another additional feature that I picked up on this was the roller handle. Makes for a nice smooth reload, especially when you're here cranking out 100, 200, sometimes up to 600 rounds in the same seating. Another thing that I picked up on a recommendation, was the extended base plate here. I'm not quite sure exactly what they call it, but this is the base plate that rises, gives a little bit of rise to the machine, puts it in a little bit more of a natural position, which is, I guess, raises a point that one complaint I guess you could have, not even really a complaint, but in the base model you could set up with the base model and start reloading, but by the time you're done with some of the nicer features, you spend a little bit more to get things from Dillon. So, but they're all really nice, and when you pick up the nice stuff, it really makes for a smooth machine. This other bullet holder was additional price. Keeps the bullets about the same height, which makes it nice to put the round here and index it and bring the shell plate up. What I'll do here is show you this machine in operation. This is the powder drop. Powder drop is pretty easy to adjust. On the back side here, you can see there's this little tiny nut, and you just adjust that left or right and change your powder drop. Pretty easy to set up. And other things that I'll mention here as we go along, I'll just kind of show you how this operates. What I've got here is 45 ACP with bullseye powder, about 5 grains. And these are some berries bullets over here. Alright, what I'm going to do is show you how fast this loads up. I've got about 25 bullets here in my plate, and just load them up. Go at a moderate speed. You can go faster on this thing. I don't generally go too fast just because I don't want to mess things up, and I'd rather not be sloppy, but even still, the cycle here, the first stage is going to pop the old primer. It's going to also resize the casing. The second step, you can see the powder funnel right there up top. Second step's going to, at first it seats the primer. As you push the handle all the way forward, it seats a new primer, and then as it comes up, it's going to do a powder drop. This will rotate through, comes over, rotates through to the other side. I've got this one set up right here. You can add a powder check right here, but I've never had a problem with that, and I didn't really think that was that important. I've actually got Lee dies that I'm using right here, and they work just fine. The one thing to be careful of is just to make sure you have a a die set that separates out the seat from the crimp, because it's kind of hard to do both of those at the same time, especially on a progressive press like this. And so the first one will seat the round. You saw me putting that right here, and then the next station will put a small crimp on there. If you can adjust the crimp to however much you need it to. This doesn't have very much at all, just a really slight crimp. Last but not least, just kind of show you how I have up my reloading bench set up. One thing that I notice about when just getting into reloading, especially with the Dillon machine, you see I've got all these different pieces inside there of just various components that go for each casing, each round. Another nice thing about the 650 is you can get these tool heads. They're about 25 bucks a piece, but what's nice about those is you can set up different rounds on there. I've got 223, 9mm, 40, 357 SIG, 357 and 38 special. And what's nice about the tool head is that it keeps everything at the height and the depth that you need from the previous load, and so as long as you're keeping good records, you can just set up, put the new powder, put the powder back to what it was before, and rotate through. This one is, see if I can see, this is my 308. And all these different shell plates. Here's what the shell plate looks like for each one of these sizes. And so, changing out the calibers on the XL650 can be a little bit pricey, but in the long run, it seems to be worth it with how fast that works. Last but not least, I'll just show you how I've set up my bench here a little bit. Got all my brass organized underneath, below. I also have some more drawers, tumbler, some prepped brass, and I have just about 4 feet to work with, and there it is. There's my 4 feet. So that's my review of the XL650. Really like this machine. Pretty happy with it as a first-time reloader. Went on the recommendation of friends and very happy with the Dillon machine. I haven't used anything else, but this has kind of set the standard for me, and it's pretty fast to change calibers, change everything over. When I'm setting up a new caliber for the first time with a new tool head, new dies and everything, it sometimes takes about an hour to 2 hours, just because I go slow and just try to be very careful with getting the depth right. But changing over once it's all set up is pretty simple. As long as you're staying with the same bullets and you're not changing things up too much, you can really be pretty fast. The only downside that I run into is every time I want to change calibers, it's kind of expensive, and it's pretty fast. It's pretty fast to reload. I'm very happy even with the 223 and the 308. I just have noticed that the straight walled cases you can load really fast. These pistol, the 9 and the 45 especially, they reload really fast. So pretty fast machine, pretty easy to work with. A little bit nicer than the 550, not quite as intense as the 1050. Pretty happy with this guy, right in the middle. Post any comments, any questions, and be happy to respond if you've got anything that you want to know more specifically. Thanks for watching.